On this episode of the Mamas Con Ganas podcast, I'm going to show you how to replace a negative emotion. Now, this episode is quite different from the previous ones that we've done because we're going to enter the doing, the practicality, the putting into practice of everything that I have been showing you and basically sharing with you in the past episodes, particularly the last two episodes that I did, which are the power of the question and also recycled thoughts. So, in the previous two episodes, I talked a lot about one, the power of questions, how asking the right questions can completely alter your life, meaning ask an empowering question, you get empowering results, you get empowering answers. You ask the wrong questions, it could lead you towards a downward spiral where you're really not empowering your life whatsoever. Then I also talked about your recycled thoughts. That was the previous episode. And I talked about how many times we have these affirmations or beliefs or opinions or perspectives that have been recycled in our mind. And some of these things we've recycled and we've brought along our journey of life for years. It's something that we might have experienced, for example, and we've drawn a conclusion about life. And even if that conclusion or perspective is not serving us, we might have dragged that perspective to this day. And we might keep repeating and affirming this statement, although it's just an opinion and just a belief, and opinions and beliefs can be changed. It is possible to reprogram these beliefs to actually choose a more empowering beliefs. But maybe we've been dragging this on and on and on. And now we're doing the work and we're realizing, wow, all of these recycled thoughts, or many, maybe not all, many of these recycled thoughts are not serving me. And it's time to change. And we realize I'm going to become more intentional with the way I look at my life. I'm going to start examining and observing my thought patterns. I'm going to start writing down and journaling what it is that I'm focusing on. What are those things that I continuously tell myself like a broken record in my head? I'm going to jot them down. I'm going to become aware of them, because when we become aware of things, then we have the ability to then choose, okay, this is what's been running through my head over and over. Do I want to stay with this thought? Or is this something that I should probably replace with something else? So at the beginning of the episode, I said we're going to be talking about how to replace emotions. And now all of a sudden I switched to thoughts. But you'll see how it intertwines in a second. I've been saying all along that first you have a thought. That thought creates an emotion. And then those emotions create your behaviors. And your behaviors are obviously going to be the thing that determines your outcome or your results. So we need to first get to have empowered thoughts so that we have outcomes that we really want. If we have weak thoughts, disempowering thoughts, our emotions are going to be weak and they're going to be not ideal. And those less than ideal emotions are going to produce less than satisfactory actions. And those less than satisfactory actions are going to give us, of course, results that we're not really seeking. So here, you've come along in the journey with me. I know that if you've been listening to the podcast, you're somebody who really wants to make positive changes in your life. You know that your life is only about to get better, that the best is yet to come. And yes, you have within your power to reprogram your mind. And when you reprogram your mind, you're going to be able to reprogram your life, mamacita. So, for this exercise and for this podcast, I want you to go to mamasconganas.com/98. And you're going to see a very powerful exercise that you're going to be able to download and then print for yourself so that you actually get to write down the answers to the questions that I'm going to be asking you. So this episode is going to accompany that very powerful exercise. Now, will it just help if you just listen to the episode and not do the exercise? Absolutely. Everything helps, right? You're going to already start thinking and making changes within your subconscious mind. However, there's nothing more powerful than when you listen to something, but then also you do the exercises to accompany. And when you actually do the exercises to accompany all the questions and the exercises that I'm going to give you on the podcast, it's going to basically help you and propel you to move forward much quicker. So I really suggest that you go, like I said, mamasconganas.com/98, and you download that exercise. Now, we're going to go into the exercise. I'm going to say it out loud so I accompany you. Maybe you've gone, you paused the episode, you've gone and printed the exercise, and now you're doing this along with me. And you can pause as we go along and write the answers to the questions that I'm going to be asking you. For those of you who are perhaps in the car or cooking, you can get to that later. You can keep on listening to the episode, and then you realize, okay, this is something that I really want to do. It's something that I want to dig deeper. I want to find out more for myself, and I want to observe and become more self-aware so that I can really make an impact, a positive impact in my life. So the first thing we're going to do is this, very simple. We're going to examine the 3 emotions that we feel the most on a consistent basis. So I want you to think of the 3 things, the 3 emotions that you tend to feel the most often in a consistent basis. And I want you to start realizing for yourself, are these emotions serving me? Are they positive emotions? Are they negative emotions? In the past week, for example, let's examine the past week. What have been your emotions? Now, if they're positive emotions, you're going to be a little bit more excited to write them down, right? But if they're negative emotions, we really want to drill in onto the negative emotions, because those are the ones that we're going to later use that we're going to replace those negative emotions, and you're going to see how we're going to replace them. But first, we want to hone in, or what are those emotions that I feel on a constant daily basis? Now, if you have mostly positive emotions, that's wonderful. I want you to write those down. And if there are 3 positive emotions, great. If the 3 of them are negative, don't worry, write them down as well. What are they? Jot them down. And perhaps you're going to have to think a little bit about it. Okay, what is the thing that I feel the most often? What about second most often? What is that feeling that I have on an everyday basis, or an emotion that I experience throughout my day? Sometimes emotions are also tied to different things that you may be doing. For example, somebody who might feel very empowered at home with their family might have a very positive emotion when they step into the house. But then when they go to work, if they're not particularly in a good state of mind with work, or they're feeling that they're not in an empowering position at work, or they feel not appreciated at work, or that their talents aren't being used, they might feel those negative emotions tied to that one area or pillar of their life. So as you think about this, I want you to also look at the different aspects of your life and make an analysis. When it comes to my health, how do I feel? And what's that word that sticks out? When it comes to my home life and my family life, or my friendships, my relationships, what is that feeling that I get? When I think about my home, my environment, what do I feel? When it comes to my career, when it comes to my finances, when it comes to my spirituality and my connection with God, what is it that I feel? What are those 3 things that you're feeling the most often? They can be positive or negative. 3 things, the strongest things that show up in your life. In the exercise that I put online, like I said, mamasconganas.com/98, you'll also see a list of emotions. And you'll see a list of positive and negative emotions. Go through the list and then choose the ones that you seem to be feeling the most. You can pause the recording right now and go ahead, look at the list of things, and circle the 3 emotions that you feel consistently right now in your life the most. Okay. If you've chosen your emotions, the 3 things that you feel on average the most, now I want you to write down on the exercise, on step number 2, the things that you tell yourself when you're feeling these emotions. So, for example, if you're feeling hope, and hope is one of your top three, what is it that you tell yourself when you're feeling hopeful? What are those things that are running through your head? What are you focusing on? But more particularly, what are those things that you're telling yourself when you're feeling hopeful? And then go down your list. So, for purposes of the exercise, I'm going to give you an example of a client of mine. Her name is Daniela. I've done this exercise with her on several occasions. We did it recently because she was kind of feeling like she was in a rut. She was feeling stuck and she was feeling like she couldn't get out of her, let's say, her negativity for this week. She's had a really rough week. So we went back and examined, okay, what are those feelings that you've been experiencing the most this past week? And previously and normally, she has positive, maybe a negative emotion here and there. But this time around, the three emotions that she was experiencing the most were three negative things. And she told me she'd been feeling a lot of anxiety. She was feeling a lot of fear and she was feeling a lot of vulnerability. Now, vulnerable in the sense that she felt, imagine like an animal, like a baby, like a cub, like a baby cub in the bush that's not able to defend itself and vulnerable to being preyed on and eaten. So feeling weak and not being able to defend herself and even feeling like perhaps people could take advantage of her. So in that sense, so those three feelings were the most prevalent in the week for her. Like I said, anxiety, fear, and vulnerability. The next part of the exercise, which is the one that I just mentioned, is I asked her, what do you tell yourself when you're feeling anxious, fearful, and vulnerable? Because usually it was like an attack. It was like these three words sort of came together, they formed this trio, and they came to attack her all at the same time. But for the exercise, I wanted her to understand what were the things that she was telling herself in her mind, to be aware of the things that she was repeating inside her. What were those thoughts running through her head when she was feeling precisely each of the three categories? So when she was feeling, for example, I wrote it down here. When she was feeling anxious, her thoughts were, everything is difficult. Why me? I'm incapable. I feel stuck. When she was feeling the fear, she was telling herself, I want to leave. I want to get out of here. I want to escape. Why am I still here? And when she was feeling vulnerable, she was feeling, I want to cry. I'm tired. This is not worth it. So those were the thoughts. And it's interesting because many times we don't realize even that with just one sentence, we can bring ourselves to that state immediately. Immediately, it might not even be too many thoughts. It might just be, I'm not worth it. I'm not worth it. I'm not worth it. And immediately you feel vulnerable. Or if you say, I'm incapable, I'm incapable, I'm incapable, end up feeling weak immediately. You repeat it to yourself so many times, it brings you back to that state immediately. So, in examining your emotions, whether positive or negative, because it could be something positive, I want you to ask yourself what it is that you're telling yourself when you're feeling those things. And it's a great exercise because even more so when you're feeling really things that are positive, you'll discover, wow, when I want to feel these positive things, what I have to do is tell myself these things that I tell myself when I'm feeling positive. So it's a good exercise in that sense as well. Okay, now that we've isolated the thoughts that we're telling ourselves that are linked to the emotions that we're feeling, now step number 3. What we're going to do with number 3 is we're going to find replacement for these negative thoughts. So, or negative emotions, excuse me. So if one of our constant emotions that keeps coming up is fear, for example, like in Daniela's case, I asked her, what would replace fear? What could we do to replace fear that would make fear go away? So what feeling could we draw into your life that would make fear dissipate? Or the question could be, what do you want to feel instead? So instead of feeling X, how would you like to feel? So for fear, I asked her, okay, Daniela, how would you like to feel? Instead of feeling fearful, how would you like to feel? And she said, I want to feel courageous. Okay. What about for anxiety? So, and I'm giving you examples here. Instead of anxious, how do you want to feel? And her response was, I want to feel at peace. I want to feel calm. That no matter what comes my way, I'm able to navigate it in calm and in peace. And instead of feeling vulnerable, I asked her, what would you like to feel? And she said, I want to feel empowered, powerful. Instead of vulnerable, I want to feel powerful. So that's a place to start. So in exercise, step number 3, you're going to choose that thing that will replace that negative emotion. What is it that you want to feel? Okay. Have you done that part of the exercise? Have you paused this? Have you done it? Have you written it down? Do you know what it is that you want to feel? That emotion that you want to experience on a more constant basis? Great. Okay, let's go to the next part. Okay, now, here what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of neuro-linguistic programming. And neuro-linguistic programming, they use what's called anchors. So what anchors are things that we can use to make us feel in a certain way. That's a very basic way of putting it. For example, there are songs that will automatically get us into a state of mind because they remind us of a person or they remind us of an experience. So I'm sure you guys all have that one song that when you hear it, you might make you smile, it makes you feel excited, it makes you feel, I don't know, even horny. I mean, like whatever, it's like whatever. That's an anchor. A song can be an anchor, right? Same thing with like a particular clothing. There's always clothing can be anchors as well. So when you wear a particular shirt, you might feel more powerful, or a certain type of shoes that make you feel a certain way. But here, what we're going to do is we're going to anchor a particular emotion into something that when you feel the negative emotion coming on, you're going to be able to use this new anchor and you're going to be able to switch into the positive state. Okay. So for this, I need you guys to be fully engaged and open in the sense that you have to play full out, because if you don't play full out, it obviously doesn't happen. Like you have to bring in that actress of yours into this. So the ganas, you need to bring in the ganas for this exercise. Now, if you are driving, this is not the moment to do the exercise because at this point, this is the part that's sort of like the therapeutic, and we're going to be putting something in your subconscious that you're going to be able to use later on, but you really need to be engaged and present in the moment for this. So if you are in the car, you can listen to it, but I would really go back and do the exercise later on when you're really ready to give yourself a powerful anchor. Now, I've done this with confidence, for example. Confidence, I had to create an anchor for myself because there was a moment and I could still step into not being confident, but there was a moment of time in time where I was really needing to feel like I had lost that sense of confidence and I really wanted that confidence back. So for me, this exercise has been powerful in choosing the emotion of confidence. Okay, so now you can do this, by the way, if you have 3 negative emotions, you can do this 3 times, or you could just choose one if you only had 1 or 2. And not only that, but you could also do this several times. Like if you feel like it wasn't a strong enough of an anchor, or you maybe weren't as into it and you need to do it again, or you need to refine that anchor, or you need to strengthen that anchor, then I want you to come back to this exercise and do it again, because you'll have insights that you might have not had the first time. So here we go. Okay. So think of something that you want to feel, that emotion that you want to feel. Do you have it? Okay. Think of a time, close your eyes. Think of a time when you felt that emotion that you're trying to attract, whatever it is that you want to feel on a constant day basis. Think of a time where you felt that 100%. Perhaps you were a little kid or a teenager or an adult. You felt that, you know what that feeling is. It could have been even perhaps a fleeting moment, meaning the moment came and then was gone, but you felt, you know what that feeling is. You felt it before. You felt absolutely, totally that which you want to have, that feeling that you want to attract. Now, in remembering that moment when you felt that feeling, I want you to, as you close your eyes, I want you to picture what it is that you saw. What were you seeing when you felt that feeling? Were you alone? Was someone there? Were you outside? Indoors? What colors were you seeing? Now I want you to hear and listen to the things that you were listening to when you felt that feeling. What were you listening? Were you listening to a song? Did somebody say something? Or did you say something at that moment? What were you hearing? Feel the feelings of being that you want to feel. And in thinking about the emotion that you want to attract, how do you stand when you feel that way? How do you hold yourself? How do you walk when you feel that way? How do you talk? How do you move? How do you breathe? When you're feeling that feeling, how do you breathe? Now, I want you to breathe the way that you would breathe, or the way that you breathe when you feel that feeling. And what are you focusing on? What are you focusing on when you're feeling that feeling? What's your inner dialogue? What are you saying to yourself when you're feeling that feeling that you want to feel? What is your inner dialogue? What are you saying to yourself? What are you repeating to yourself? What do you know to be true? What is that inner voice saying to you? Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, I want you to say out loud how close to the feeling you are right now, that feeling that you want to attract, and thinking of all the things that bring you this feeling. From a scale of 1 to 10, how close are you to that feeling? Whatever that number is, we're going to bring it up a notch. Okay? Stay in the state. Don't give up on me. Close your eyes. I want you to really play full out. And I want, again, for you to place yourself in that moment and listen to the sounds that you heard when you felt that feeling. What were you looking at? What did things look like? How did you stand? How did you hold yourself? How did you move? And what were you saying to yourself? Say it out loud. How were you saying to yourself? What were you saying to yourself out loud? Say it out loud. What were you saying to yourself? What else were you saying to yourself? Okay. What else do you say to yourself? More, more, more. What do you know to be true in this moment when you're feeling that feeling? Okay. Now, if you are from on an 8 to 10 scale, if you encompassing that feeling and you wrapping yourself around that feeling, and you're breathing in that way and you're letting yourself go into that moment as if you were reliving it now. I want you to create an anchor. By this, you could either tighten your fist as the anchor, touch your shoulder, your right shoulder as an anchor, do something physically that you'll be able to do to remind yourself of this feeling later on. You could put your fingers together in a particular way. If you're sitting down, you could rub your knee in a certain way. Some type of physical activity, because as you do this, as you squeeze your hand, for example, squeeze your hand, tighten your fist, and every time you tighten your fist, you're going to feel that feeling even stronger and stronger. And you're going to breathe in that feeling. And as it gets stronger, you're going to squeeze your hand or you're going to touch your shoulder or whatever it is that you want to build as an anchor for that feeling. Mamacita, what did you eat for breakfast today? What did you eat? Okay, now I want you to shake it out. I know, I interrupted you. I changed focus. Did you tell me what you ate for breakfast this morning? Okay, good. Shake it out. I want you to shake it out. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Okay. Whew. Now that anchor that you built, I want you to do physically what you did to anchor yourself. The squeezing of the hand, the touching of the shoulder, the rubbing of your knee, whatever that is. Just do it for a second right now. And see if somehow you've anchored that feeling of whatever it is that you wanted to feel inside you. And you should get some sense of that feeling back. Now, this is the exercise that I want you to repeat in order to build this emotion that you're going to put in to replace the negative emotion. And for example, if the memory of that feeling that way you want to feel is not strong enough, you might, throughout the course of the day or the week or the month, realize actually that memory doesn't anchor that feeling that I need as strongly and as securely as I need. So you might actually remember a moment where that feeling was even stronger. And then you could do the exercise again, closing of your eyes again, and actually go into that state in a stronger and like more powerful way because perhaps the memory was stronger of that feeling that you wanted. I hope that this exercise helps in bringing those emotions that help you live your life with more ganas, with more happiness, with more joy, with more everything, more peace, everything that you want to attract in your life. I want you to tell me what you thought of this episode. And of course, the more committed you are to these things, the more powerful anchors can be. This is just a very little introduction into NLP, but I find it very powerful. I found it very powerful for my life. So I'm sharing it with you. And let me know what you thought. mamasconganas.com/98. And until next time, Mamacita, I love you.
Hey, it's Valentina. Espero te gustó este episodio de nuestro podcast. If you liked it, or if any of our content has inspired you in any way, I'd be ever so grateful if you showed some amorcito by reviewing us on iTunes or wherever you listen to us. Every single review will help us reach more mamacitas so they can live their life con muchas ganas. It's because of you, our listeners, that we're able to create contenido para otras latinas. 1,000,000 de gracias por suscribirte, escuchar y compartir nuestro podcast. Si tienen preguntas, comentarios y más, pueden visitar nuestra página web mamasconganas.com or follow us on social media at Mamas Con Ganas. You can also write me directly at info@mamasconganas.com. Hasta la próxima, es Valentina recordándote, don't be a mama con drama. Let's be mamas con ganas. Besitos.